it was fascinating because one of the things I found out was growing up, I was never in the inner circles.
Ah,
My family were Air Force
mm,
and we moved a lot. So I was constantly moving into a new school and I was always the kid on the outside. There was always the inner circle. And my strategy for making friends, this is what I learned from this exercise.
let's do it. Hello, and welcome back to all of my wonderful Courage, Confidence, and Connections podcast fans. We are glad to see you back. My guest today is Laureen Quick, and if you've watched many of my episodes, yes, she's been on here before. But with so many things going on and an upcoming summit that thankfully I am a speaker on, we're going to have fun talking about that and some new topics. Listen closely because there's a lot to talk about today. Welcome, Laureen.
Janice, thank you so much for having me on. I love connecting and talking with you. So I'm looking forward to a delightful time here.
Okay. Well, since our audience may not have seen your introduction in the last podcast we did, I'd like you to give a little introduction and talk about yourself for a few minutes, and we'll get into some questions.
Happy to share. I am Laureen Quick, and I work as a navigator and threshold guide to women over who are 50 going through what I would call a major life transition.
Mm,
My work is based on my own experience as a 60-something-year-old woman and also my curiosity with all the women that I talk to at this age about the experiences that they have when their children grow up and go away. Their husbands may or may not be any longer in the picture. They also may have stopped working and they find themselves sitting around looking at the walls going, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And that process has been an amazing one for me. And that's a lot of what I do. I also do a lot of hiking and a lot of travel. So that is those are two of my passions, I guess I should say, along with my dog Dixie, who is my trail partner. What else would you like to know about me, girlfriend?
that's great. It really is. And we're here to give hope and let women and men too. You can listen in if you, whatever works for you. But when life changes as we age and we start to wonder, the older we get, at least in my life, going, how did I get here? How am I this age? And I remember being 30 and what happened. So,
Yes. And 60 looked so far away to me. I couldn't even imagine 50, right? And now I feel like, well, my gosh, I'm looking at 100. I got another 40 years. Okay, maybe a few less. I'm 67. But life does not end as you get older. In fact, in some ways, it becomes more alive. At least it has for me and for the women I've talked to at this point in our lives.
exactly. And that's how I'm feeling these days as I've processed a lot of things in my life and going back and looking, going, I remember that, but okay, how old? And then I talk to my classmates on Facebook and go, y'all look old. So, so, our perspective changes, and that's what we really want to get into today, because I know some people and when I'm not retired, neither are you. I'm not even sure what that means. I, I'm not into games or sitting on a front porch rocking. I like my front porch, but uh, I couldn't do that for 8, 10 hours a day. I'd go
No.
bonkers. So there is life after 50 and 60. We're here to give you that perspective and that hope. Now, we want to talk about the summit, but let's have some questions here that might help to lead into that. And a lot of women especially tend to abandon themselves. So what does that mean, Laureen?
What has happened for many of us over the last 3, 4 decades of our lives is we have been supporting other people. We have families to support, we have husbands to support, we have um, businesses or even employers that we support. And what we do over those 20, 30, 40 years is we sort of whittle away and give ourselves away. We put ourselves second. And every time we do that, we start to slowly forget who we are. And so when we come to our 50s and our 60s, we wake up one day and realize we don't necessarily even know who we are anymore. We have no clear identity other than who we are in relationship to other people. And when those other people disappear, or when they require less and less of us in terms of connection and support, we have a lot of space, a lot of time to start to ask really important questions about who are we? What do we want? What do we value? What do we want to become as we spend the next 10, 20, 30 years of our lives? So that's what happens to us. We abandon ourselves over that process, and then we wake up and realize we need to reconnect.
Yes, and one of the hardest questions, if not the hardest, I've mentioned this in
Mhm.
many podcasts, is who am I? And I went through a whole training or introspective exercise for several weeks with someone, and she had me write out like the I am, such as the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Mhm.
And oh, I had a friend that was going to Toastmasters, and her first speech was, "Who am I?" She couldn't figure that out. She was a mother of so many, a wife multiple times, I think. I don't know the whole story, but a business owner. And when you strip it all down, asking who am I is really difficult to answer when
It is.
you take all that away.
Yes, if you don't define yourselves in terms of the roles that you play,
Right.
what's left?
Right, exactly. So why do so many women find themselves disconnected from who they really are later in life? Now, I know you just answered that in part, but
Mhm.
um, is there more to that, more meat that we can get into?
Well, there is a little bit because a lot of contemporary or current messaging you'll hear is it's time to reinvent yourself. And that is implying that you need to become somebody completely different.
Hmm.
And so I will use that word, but I always define it carefully because when I am talking about reinvention, I am talking about
Hmm.
remembering and returning back to yourself. So, the work that we have in front of us as we move into our golden years, and the time, luckily, that we have for this is to begin to reflect and increase our self-knowledge about who we are. And it is funny because a lot of times what I will remember is who I was when I was 7, who
Mm,
I was when I was 12. And I am finding that I go back to that little girl who was full of joy and also full of innocence to some degree, right? Um, and I want to express that again in the life that I live today.
yeah, and I would say a phrase just came to me we heard growing up, act your age. Well, I would say don't act your age.
Oh
I
yeah.
would say act the age you want to be. Because, we hear phrases like you should dress more age appropriately, wear your hair more age appropriate, and blah, blah, blah. Our culture so defines us by our age, and that's exactly what we don't want.
Yeah. And there is a lot of people who will tell you how you should be.
Exactly.
So I get a few weeks back, I had someone remind me, well, you are 67. You're pushing 70 now. Don't you think you should slow down a little bit? And I was truly sort of surprised. What? And what I realized in thinking about that question was, no, I'm not ready to slow down at all. In fact, I am going full speed ahead. But the rest of the world will come at you and remind you that you are a certain age and there are certain things that you should and shouldn't be doing. And is there something wrong with you if you are violating those cultural norms, right? Like maybe you need to see a therapist or
Oh,
something.
yeah, isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
And it's just so damaging. We do hear that act your age from a young
Mhm.
perspective. And I don't even know what somebody my age acts like. I don't. And I like what you said. I like looking at younger pictures of myself and going, you were cute and you smiled all the time and you loved people. And I got this one picture, Laureen, of me in a couple of them actually, in my Easter dress. And it was the pinafores and,
Mhm.
and so frilly. I'm like, hmm, maybe I need another pinafore.
Beautiful. I think you might. I think you might. I think that is joyful,
It
what you
is.
just shared. It really is. And no one gets to tell us how to live our lives at this point. We've done a lot of work to support other people, and it's our turn. At least that's how I see it. So you can keep your opinions to yourself. And the other thing I will remark on, because you mentioned, well, we don't even know what act your age means. We
Mm-mm.
have so limited role models for women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. There are women out there again, and they're starting to become more diverse in how they live their lives. And we are part of that. You and I, we are role models, right? Every woman is a role model for another woman who's looking for clues about can I really be free to do whatever it is I want and say and think and feel what I feel versus trying to, stuff myself into some box that everybody else wants me to live in.
Exactly.
And I consider this to be ultimately the most creative, most joyful, and truly the best years of my life right now. I have never been happier.
I'm with you. And having come through a divorce a few years ago, and more than one actually, if I go back, but realizing as I journal and I think, I'm like, a lot of phrases will hit my mind, and I'm going, who's renting my space? That's not me.
Yeah.
And because we tend to, as humans, adapt to who we're with. Now, some people don't, but women, I think we're more prone to um, pick up on things like that, especially if you've been through anything traumatic. And because I'll catch myself going, that's not me. Somebody's renting space and it's time to evict them. And and think how do I really think? And that does help. It does help to go back to when you were a kid and okay, I now it's like, yeah, I can hear people telling you, what are you doing out there on those mountains? And get that rocking chair out and put it on the porch. So but don't do that. And encouraging women to be who you want to be. If you can go do something, then go do it. I'd love a hot air balloon ride personally. That's something I want to do. It's not very
Well,
active, but it's something. Hmm,
oh, it's a lot of fun. I've done one in my life, and I wouldn't mind doing more. It's adventure, Janice. It's adventure, and adventure can be anything from going to a different restaurant and trying different foods. That's an adventure to me.
yeah,
Going to a local farm and spending the day out there playing in the dirt, maybe helping them plant, doing whatever it is that they require, want, and need. I'm this summer, I'm spending 4 days at an art institute. I am not an artist. I do not define myself as an artist. Now, I might have a change of identity once I go through those 4 days, but I'm doing it very intentionally because I want to explore that side of myself. And
well,
I want to see what I can learn about me as a creative. So adventure is part of our lives, and we have the time now to do it. And they can be big and they can be small.
right. And something I picked back up is coloring. When I was a kid, I used to love to color. Oh my goodness. Well, I a few years back, when my mom was still around, she started coloring. She had Parkinson's. And it helped her Parkinson's. It helped her focus and hold her hand steady. So
Mhm.
she was amazing. I've still got a lot of her work that I'm putting up on the walls. And she didn't draw it, but she could color it beautifully. And so I picked it up a few years back, but then when I relocated and had to go through moves, I'm like, I'm not going to do this again. Well, I am because I am taking an online, um, basically explore your artistic ability class. And so I bought more pencils, and I'm always downloading and finding, ordered a coloring book. And it's like, I could color for 8 hours. I absolutely, and I'm even doing how you used to put the kids' artwork on the walls and the refrigerator. I'm putting my own on the wall.
Yay!
That's my kid. I love it. And things like that. It's important to embrace. It's like this is fun and shut those other voices out. But so we've got women out there, they don't even know how to begin. And so I want to know how our audience can begin, but how did you begin this journey of, oh my goodness, I got to do something different. This is not me.
I woke up on my 60th birthday and I said to myself, Laureen, you have lived 60 years and you are probably not going to live another 60. So you are well over halfway done. Okay, let's assume we have 30, 40 years left.
Mhm.
What are you going to do with that? And then I kind of started thinking of all the things I said someday I was going to do. And what I realized was someday is just not a word I want in my vocabulary anymore. If I am not going to do, if I'm going to say someday, then that's just something that I'm not going to talk about. Instead, I'm only going to talk about the things that are scheduled on my calendar that I have committed to that I am doing. And I found just making that decision forced me to start making commitments to things that I always wanted to do but never quite got around to for a jillion different reasons, right? Out of that, I booked a tour to Peru and Machu Picchu. I did invite my younger daughter. She ended up coming with me, and we went to Peru. As I was preparing for that trip, it occurred to me that we were going to be climbing at this site, Machu Picchu. There, it's not like just stand there and look at everything. You have to actually walk up and I realized I was completely out of shape, so I started walking. When we got to Peru, indeed, the tour group said, we have two plans, one for those that don't are not very active and one for those that are. My daughter is in her 30s, I think, at that point in time, and she looked at me and she goes, "Well, Mom, if you want, we can go in the non-active group and we can just do the littler tour." And I looked at her and I said, "Hell no, we are going on that one." And so we immediately got into the group that was going to do all the climbing and walking around. And I would say we weren't 20 minutes in when a woman in front of us actually passed out from the physical stress of this hike. And I was thinking, what have I gotten myself into? But nonetheless, we finished the tour. We had a great time. When I got home, I realized if I wanted to keep doing these wonderful and fun adventures, I was going to have to get in shape. And so I started walking. And I would literally walk in my upstairs house at 5 o'clock in the morning with music on, headphones on. I would walk a route in my house and I would do 10 minutes and then I would do 15 and then I got up to 20. And the next thing you know, I'm out on trails hiking with my other daughter. And out of that, I began meeting other women who like to hike. And there I went off on adventures, traveling, hiking. And through that whole process, I began to grow and expand and also lost about 80 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, just being active, just beginning to become more and more active. So, and it's just gone on and on since then. It's just a process of continual, for me, life is a process of continual growth.
Exactly. And in our audience, well, let's give them some thoughts of maybe it's not physical, but how to begin to reconnect with themselves.
One of the best tools that I could tell anyone is to learn how to get really comfortable with pauses.
Mm,
Pause. And a pause can be 2 minutes. It does not have to be 2 hours. So pauses are moments when you are not doing anything. You are just being. And you develop a sense of curiosity during the pause to see what shows up.
mm,
So I had the wonderful joy of going on a trip to Galveston, Texas this past year with my younger daughter and her husband. We were going to do a road trip. So I was at their house in Austin and woke up and we were planning to leave at 8 o'clock. My bags are packed. I'm ready to get in the car. Let's go. At about 10 minutes to 8, my daughter comes out of her bedroom and says, we didn't sleep really well, so we're gonna delay our departure for a little bit. Now, the old me would have gone, what? We have to go. We have all these things that we have to do. But the new me, the me that I remember, is the child that said, okay, I'm sure I can find something to do until you're ready. And so I actually sat down, took my shoes off, sat down in their living room, and I spent about 40, 50 minutes writing poetry.
Wow.
I would have never done that in another lifetime because I would have been pissed off, mad, angry that we weren't leaving on time and that somehow our whole trip was ruined because of this. Instead, I had 50 minutes of great pleasure writing poetry about my daughter and my relationship with her and just the whole experience of being with both of them.
Mhm.
And then eventually I kind of came back into consciousness and they're both standing there looking at me with their suitcases in hand going, well, we're ready to go. Are you ready? And I'm like, oh my gosh, let me go get my shoes on. And I have to go to the bathroom one more time. And so they ended up waiting on me.
Oh,
And, I give that as an example because I made the decision after that I was going to pause all throughout this whole trip. And so I would deliberately, intentionally take pauses on this journey to Galveston. And it really changed the whole pace of my experience. It slowed me way down and it allowed me, I mean, I can still remember moments on that trip standing and looking at nature, being in the moment, eating a burrito on a roadside taco stand. I just can remember it all really clearly because I was aware of a lot more. So, long answer to your question, Janice, begin to just welcome the pause, welcome it into your life and listen. And then when it's gone, move on and go do whatever it is you're doing and just keep welcoming those pauses and see what comes up.
exactly. In our society too, we tend to just stay busy, busy, busy.
Mhm.
And one of the things I do with clients in my coaching business is they get my journal as a part of their coaching package. And the assignment is you must journal. You must take time and sit down and think and pause and write. And I went, well, I just can't do that. I'm like, it's not an option. Because, we do have to
It's a
pause.
requirement.
It's a requirement. Yeah. And it's like a timeout for adults.
I think journaling is also a great tool to begin to look for patterns and trends in your life. I had a professor once at a, I don't even know what the class was about, but he had us write a autobiography.
Mhm.
Now, I'm a zealot when it comes to doing work. I'm performance based. And so I turned in like a 90-page document to this poor man.
Oh
And
my
it was handwritten. And I mean, I think I wrote it like one night. I stayed up the whole night and just wrote this history. And then, but the assignment then was to go back through that document and find trends and patterns in your life to help you discover more about yourself.
Oh.
And it was fascinating because one of the things I found out was growing up, I was never in the inner circles.
Ah.
My family were Air Force
Mm.
and we moved a lot. So I was constantly moving into a new school and I was always the kid on the outside. There was always the inner circle. And my strategy for making friends, this is what I learned from this exercise, is I would make friends with all the people in the class that were not in the inner circle
Oh.
because they were the ones that didn't feel like they were included,
Hmm.
right? And
Right.
then suddenly I would have this very large social group. And then the inner circle which was a lot smaller, would suddenly start inviting me to do things with them because you couldn't ignore me. I was everywhere. But even in my work, I never liked to be in the inner circle. I always wanted to be this outside person. So I became a consultant. So the writing, long story short, again, the writing, the journaling really does teach us to discover patterns about ourselves that we like, but also that we don't necessarily like and we want to change.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. And I've got like 35 journals over here to my left that I've journaled over the last 35 years. And I think it's about 35. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, and so looking when you look back at what you've written those 3 decades ago and go, oh my goodness, boy,
Mhm.
I've grown a lot. And that leads me to a question about personal development because obviously being a personal development trainer and coach, I work with people to help them embrace personal development and growth. However, in my experience and in the lives of others, what we have is difficulties that come up in relationships when you start growing, but somebody else doesn't. Can you speak on that?
Sure, I can. It is very sad sometimes because
Yeah.
we outgrow people in our lives, or they outgrow us. And it is actually, I've come to understand it's a very natural process that very few things last forever.
Right.
What I do know is, you've heard that saying, whoever you are with, the five people that you hang out with the most is who you will become. I would actually take that a little further and say the five people that you hang out with are actually who you are
Hmm.
now, right now, today. And so as you evolve, suddenly you find that it just doesn't quite fit. It doesn't quite feel right. Like you want more, or there's even sometimes conflict because expectations are different. So we learn to let go of those old friends, still love those people, still want to, sometimes even be with those people. It's not like we have to eliminate them from our lives forever, but we also begin to seek new friendships.
Mm-hmm.
And those new friendships are the ones that inspire us, stimulate us, encourage us, support us to, rise even higher. So this is a natural part of a cycle in a friendship. Very few friendships, I have some, but very few of them stay as strong as they are this moment in time forever. They will ebb and they will flow. And that friend that you sort of lost connection with maybe right now, 2 years from now could become your best friend again because they went through a cycle of growth. But we don't all grow together on the same track at the same time, at the same pace. I think it's important to stay open to meeting new people and embracing them into your life. Someone said to me, I think recently, there is no limit on how much you can love,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah, that's right. And I've experienced a lot of transition in friendships. Some getting
Mhm.
closer that I didn't know, and others that have just vanished and there's no more connection. You have to know who's aligned with you and who you're comfortable with, who you're meant to be around. Some people don't get you, and that's okay. You don't get other people. So
Mhm.
that's just where it is right now. But how do you remain true to yourself while staying connected to the people you care about?
Well, and that is actually the whole focus of this upcoming summit.
Okay.
So in the July Next Chapter Summit, we are going to go through 4 days, well, one night and 3 days of conversations. And a primary theme from that entire experience is really around once you know who you are, how do you not lose yourself again because you are connected and close to other people?
Mm-hmm.
Some of that is always staying clear. Who am I? What are my limits? What are my boundaries?
Mm-hmm.
Some of that is being able to share and communicate those boundaries, those limits, those needs to other people. Some of that is just simply trusting that you, as my friend, will adapt and respond to who I am. And if I cut myself down, if I whittle myself down to be something less than I am denying you the opportunity of experiencing me. And vice versa. If you cut yourself down, if you are not fully you, you are denying me that great experience of knowing you and loving you as another human being in my life.
Right.
That takes some trust, some faith that this will all hold, that there is value there, and that the other person isn't going to go running off in the opposite direction and hope that they never see us again, right? And it doesn't mean being rude or unkind. It just means gently being who you are and not compromising away yourself in order to fit somebody else's life or their expectations of you.
Exactly. Expectations are one of the enemies we deal with, putting those on other people. And, but when something happens, I've learned to pull back and just ask what's in me that has caused this reaction. What,
Mhm.
you know, and so we learn what those triggers are. But I bet you have learned so much from the interviews with your speakers. Do you have anything you want to elaborate on with that?
Well, I will tell you, including you, we have an amazing group of women who are going to come in and have conversations with me live during the summit. These women are the women I want to be with. These are the women that I most want to be like. These are my five people, right? They happen to be more than five, but these are women that you will want to hang around with and allow their presence, their energy, their spirit to influence who you become. So lots of conversations around that. Every single one of you, you have deep, deep wisdom and knowledge. And of course, my job in the interviews, in the conversations, is to try to pull that forth so that everyone gets to experience that and come to some deep understandings about who they are and how they connect with other people in the world. I am so excited about this event. It will be life-changing for the women who come.
I can only imagine because we always have great conversations and a whole, a whole bunch of us having different perspectives coming from different backgrounds and having different ideas that can assist and help people that are watching. Now, what does it look like when a woman stops abandoning herself and begins living more authentically? I'm all about authenticity.
She, this has been my experience. And I mean, I'm not perfect by any means, right? Who is? But there is a great deal more joy in your life. There is a great deal more energy in
Hmm.
your life. There is a purpose. Somewhere in all of that, your purpose becomes clear,
Hmm.
and you then begin to express who you are in all ways or aspects of your life. So, earlier when we were talking about that question, who are you?
Hmm.
When someone asked me that question, I would honestly say, I am Laureen Quick, and I am this being of light and energy. And I am here on this planet because I want to experience everything in ways that expand me and grow me. And
Hmm.
at the same time, I want to be a catalyst for those same kinds of experiences for anyone and everyone that I meet
Yeah.
and touch. And that is me. And all the other stuff fits in all of that, right? From being a consultant to being a hiker on a trail to being a woman going to an art institute and discovering herself as an artist.
Well, my former mother-in-law in Texas, you mentioned Texas, but she lived in a cute little place in Texas. And at 65, she started taking lessons. I have got, let's see, five original paintings
Oh,
and
wow.
two original watercolors of hers. Gorgeous. You would think she was a professional artist for years, but she was amazing. She's passed, but amazing talent. And she never thought about it. She just wanted something to do after she retired. So she took lessons and she's well known in the area and her paintings are valuable. And I feel so privileged to have those on my wall because she stepped out and discovered who she was.
And she's not alone. I mean, Grandma Moses began
Oh,
painting, I think, in her 60s as well. So there are women everywhere our age now reaching out and discovering who they are and finding ways to make a difference in the world,
yeah,
to share what they're passionate about and inspire others.
exactly. So what is the name of the summit?
The summit is the Next Chapter Summit. It is July 9th through 12th. It is virtual and it's free for any woman who wants to come.
Nice.
We run the first night, the ninth is an evening event, and then the next 3 days, the 10th, 11th, and 12th, we start in the morning and we end in the early afternoon. It depends on your time zone exactly when, but we only go for about 4 or 5 hours each day. So you have the rest of the day to think about what you've experienced and also to do all the other things in life that is on your to-do list or have fun with your families, friends.
Right.
That's it in terms of date, time, and title. What else can I answer for you, Janice?
Well, I think we're going to wrap it up, but I want to tell our audience that all the details about Laureen and the summit will be in the show notes. You can reach out, and if you can't figure that out, just look her up. Believe me, she's easy to find on Facebook and Google. You can find her. But this is going to be a great experience for everybody, and share it with your friends. Um, but anything else you want to be, as we wrap it up, anything else you want to say, share, enlighten us with?
Well, yes, I'll give a final message, and that is stop abandoning yourself. Just stop it and come. Come with curiosity to our summit. And even if you can't make those dates, there are replays available. So then listen in. There's no reason to say no. Come and you can walk away from it all. You don't have to take anything with you, but come and see what's there for you. And just maybe, it might change your life.
Absolutely. I totally believe that the personal growth is vital. And as we age and get more introspective, we're going to grow, but you want to grow in the right direction, meaning for yourself. So we want you to come and learn and find out, who am I? What is it I want in this life? And I guarantee you'll hear some answers and some suggestions and a lot of wisdom, a lot of wisdom.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Laureen. For my listeners, you can go find Laureen's first interview on the YouTube channel. It's they're believe it or not, I've got like 85 now. So yeah,
You've been
growing.
busy, girl.
Oh my goodness, you have no idea. So, but thank you to my audience, and Laureen, thank you for being my awesome guest. And we'll get this word out about the summit so we can, and again, there might be some men that want to benefit from this. They age too, they just age differently. So,
Most definitely.
yeah, but we will see you next time, audience. Thank you again, Janice Debo, your host. And that's all for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.